The Athene Real Talk Podcast explores controversial ideas to stimulate debate and active thinking. These ideas do not always reflect Athene's personal views. Welcome to the Athene Real Talk Podcast.
He has been called the best gamer in the world, hands down.
World-famous gamer and philanthropist Athene.
Gaming for Good, it's called, has raised more than $20 million.
Using his notoriety to raise money for charity.
On activism, science, culture, and self-development.
Proud to have him in the studio today. I would not want to take you on in a video game.
Experience is a feedback loop that has evolved as it was a lot more efficient to help our survival, because experiencing the music allows you to pinpoint the dissonance way more optimally than just going neuron by neuron to see which one is aligned and which one isn't. So basically, the reason why we do experience is because life evolved to stimulate experience, because it helped us thrive as a species. It was a tool, like life invented experience because the feedback loop of experience itself proved to be very, very powerful. But the problem is that it's not so much the problem, but it's the problem. And the good thing and the bad thing about it is when experience started to evolve so much, this feedback loop started evolving so much that to one point it became self-aware. 70,000 years ago, it started questioning its own existence. Experience started wondering what is its meaning and its purpose. And because it didn't understand the brain and didn't understand life and it didn't understand evolution, because it didn't understand the bigger picture but merely understood what it experienced right there, it evolved through culture, through all the human history to try and understand itself. And it's only now that we started realizing and understanding that the true purpose, the true meaning of this experience is to contribute and to push forward life in the broadest meaning of the word. And the problem is that people have is when they think about experience, they try to desperately find the meaning in it, find purpose in the experience itself. And that is why so many people are lost. You try to do it by identity, you try to do it by giving meaning to your suffering, meaning to your pleasure. You're desperately trying to give this experience meaning, but the only meaning it has is within the context of why it exists in the first place. And the moment you accept that, not only do you take away all meaning of experience itself out of the equation, but you realize that identity is just completely dysfunctional, and you submit to the actual patterns, these consistent patterns, these logical patterns that brought about life itself, and realize that following up on that is the best thing you can do based on your understanding, of course. And that is where you literally have a fundamental paradigm shift that allows you to submit to logic, to the consistency that brings about your experience, and realize that the experience is merely a tool, even though evolution has benefited so much from it that it gave it full control. You can really compare it to how we would start giving robots more and more control because it really benefits society, to the point where a glitch, a bug of all these robots starts destroying humanity and the ones that provide for them. Because that's the situation here. You could say like, oh, but what if AI can provide for themselves? No. The setting is not where experience can provide for itself. You are dependent of life. You are dependent of the carrier. And as a result, you have to understand this dynamic. You have to understand this synergy, this relationship. And if you don't, you literally go against what you are. And that's the thing, like if you understand this, because this is all information, but you got to really reflect on it, go to the essence of what you are and realize that the consistency is what you owe experience to, and being able to realize that the circle is fully complete when you truly understand that you're merely a tool which has a higher purpose of evolving life itself. And this feedback loop is not just limited to your experience towards your own organism, but it also translates to others. And that's why what other people say and think influences this experience you have. But once you start realizing that it's about the consistent patterns rather than experience, you don't even care so much about experience itself. You start really caring about evolving and just understanding these consistent patterns that bring you about. You literally cultivate a desire. It's important though to know that these consistent patterns are fundamentally probabilistic. And it's not because they're probabilistic probabilistic that they're not consistent. Because a lot of people think, consistency means determinism. No. You have consistency with probabilistic nature as well. And that's important to realize, because if you realize that, you can accept that as well as part of the equation, and you submit yourself to the consistency. You submit yourself to something that you know might not be fully complete. You accept it. It's part of your God that you submit to. Your understanding of it is limited. So when I talk about these things and I repeat myself, and I'm going to be repeating this a lot, you have to realize it's merely information. You have to meditate on it. You have to go to the 4 steps and emotionally relate to it in order to initiate this paradigm shift. Experience is a mean to the end. The end is life itself. But the way we look at it is we think life is a mean for the experience, which is the end. It's not true. It's the other way around. Experience evolved as a tool to contribute and benefit life. It's important to realize that. It takes away the importance that you give experience. And the funny thing is, it gives you more purpose than ever, because everybody is desperately trying to find this meaning in their experience and understand it. This is the answer. This is the answer that on a fundamental level you've been seeking for. And the funny thing is, you already know it. On a certain level, you already know it. You know that you can't do anything that makes you feel better. If you would start trying to talk about heroin, you would say like, no. If you have a desire to kill, you don't do that. This entire moral compass that you're trying to, adopt in identity to connect it with your experience is just a way for you to still desperately infuse consistency within this flawed idea of what you are attached to, which you can call identity or soul or whatever. But you do realize that this consistency is a requirement. And the reason why that is because consistency is what brought your existence and your experience to begin with. If it wasn't for that, you wouldn't exist. And truly realizing this relationship allows you to fully submit to this consistency, to this real end. And as a result, go through a paradigm shift that sets you free and makes you see the world for what it is. If your goal is to feel good, you're better off submitting to logic anyway, because you'd feel much better anyway doing that. But that's the feedback loop you're trapped in. You understand yourself by looking at what you are, and if you've wired yourself to believe that it's feeling good, then you will feedback loop that into itself, even if it's completely illogical. You almost got to go through the experience to realize like, hey, this feeling good is not really working. This is not really purposeful. This is not really meaningful. And then you start questioning it and are in a better position to click. Or you got to be quite intelligent, have quite some emotional intelligence, or you have to also have quite some empathy. You really care about the world, or you care about logic emotionally. But it's a process you can initiate yourself. You just start creating a very strong emotional connection with logic in step 1. And step 2, I would say, like, if you go to your core value, go even deeper than comfort. Because if you go even deeper than comfort, you realize that it's not about comfort. It's about existential equilibrium. It's about being in balance with your own existence, with your own experience. Within experience, you want balance. And that brings about fulfillment automatically. You truly want this inner peace. And comfort is just the next best thing, because your head is so noisy that you truly try to distract yourself because nothing else works. But I'm telling you, if you submit to logic, not only does all this noise cease to happen, but your drive for comfort won't even be there anymore because you won't need it. You will just do what is most consistent, what is most logical, and not only will it benefit you as an organism, it will benefit humanity as a superorganism. And that's why whenever people come here and do testimonies next to me, they say they are so much more successful, so much more impactful. Why do they say that? They say that because they have aligned themselves with what they truly are. Same with experience. Experience is what it wants. It wants to truly understand itself. This is the existential core of it, the essence of your existence, right? The existential essence wants to understand itself. The only reason why you're so far gone is because you've given up on it. You fell in the trap of, being fully socially conditioned and indoctrinated in things you think you want, but you know you don't really want them. All this distraction and all that shit, it doesn't work. You're still feeling like a sore loser deep inside. You feel worthless. That's why you're hanging out on this Twitch chat, talking, trying to get some meaning in your life. You don't know what to do with your life. You have absolutely no clue. You don't have a direction at all. And the funny thing is, the reason why you don't have a direction is because you're trying to get it from experience itself. But experience is a tool. It's a feedback loop that should, help your life, your organism, and the superorganism to evolve more. And if you truly understand at an emotional level, not only do you experience clarity and more fulfillment than ever, but you get a direction that is so sharp and based on the consistency, the understanding you have about the consistency around you. And that's how easy it is. I think, can you explain the term experience more specific? Have some trouble understanding the context. Mechanics law, what you experience right now, your consciousness, self-reflecting, everything, what you see, everything you see, your hands, everything, me right now, it's something you experience. It's your experience. And when you look in the brain, you can't find it. You can't find the experience in the brain. And it's because experience itself is a feedback loop. And it has evolved to start getting so much control because it allowed the brain, the organism, to thrive even more. Experience has evolved through billions of years of evolution because it's so damn effective. And the best way I can explain it is like, it's a simple metaphor though. It's like if you would have an orchestra of 1,000 people playing violin, and there is one guy that is playing wrong, you'd have to look at every single person to see how they're playing to figure out who is the one that is playing wrongly. But if you are the music, then you can immediately pinpoint where it is. And that's truly how memory, how thought, how emotions, how all these things work. It's feedback loop. Consciousness is an emergent property, and it has gotten through evolutionary biology so much more survival capacity that it started creating a symbiosis where the experience, where what is emerging, has access and ability to rewire emotions, rewire thoughts, and basically allow the organism to navigate. Because you can go about navigating life more mechanical, but because of evolutionary biology, experiencing it is way more efficient. It's way more efficient, way more beneficial, and therefore that's why we experience. So when you think about experience, right, which is this emergent property, this feedback loop, the reason why you are experiencing all of that is because it was a tool for life to evolve more optimally, and that's it. Your experience only emerged because it was a tool, because it worked. The thing is, if you understand this relationship, what basically happened is since the emergent property, this experience, was so beneficial to our survival, it started gaining more and more control. And that's why if you feel like killing yourself because you don't like your experience, you can do so. Your brain won't even stop you. And that is what is so baffling. We have evolved to gain so much control to benefit the organism to the point where your organism is fully trusting you with its own life. And 70,000 years ago, it initiated the cognitive revolution because the experience, this feedback loop, this consciousness became self-aware. It started questioning its own existence. The experience, this emergent property that was a tool that allowed it to navigate, started advancing so much that it could question itself. And the funny thing is, this process allowed it to thrive even more because they started creating religion, allowed many groups to work together, and life became even more, gained a level, gained meaning, gained purpose. And that's why we thrive, the entire planet. But the problem is that we didn't understand this relationship until now. So we started trying to find meaning and purpose in experience, within our experience, within consciousness. We tried to find meaning and purpose desperately. We created identity, we created souls, we created gods in order to give that experience meaning. But all along, the meaning and the purpose was right in front of us. The meaning and the purpose of our experience is a tool that just allowed this consistent being of life to improve itself even more. And the moment you embrace that, you don't start looking in meaning and purpose where you don't find it, which is experience itself. You start looking at it with what brought it about, which is evolution. And you start realizing this relationship, and you start realizing that even the control you have is merely because it was granted to you. And that moment when you, on an emotional level, because this is merely information, but on an emotional level fully absorb this inside, you can start realizing that you are a tool, a mean to the end. And you can start looking at the consistency, these patterns, logic, understanding of the laws that brought us about to improve life itself. And what it happens is you have an exponential growth, because a person that focuses on experience doesn't get further than feeling good. A person, on the other hand, that focuses on consistency changes worlds. And what has driven us till this point, for a big part, is this finding this meaning and purpose within experience itself and to improve it. But oh man, if you start realizing that it was not about experience at all, not only do you take away the chance that we will destroy ourselves, that humanity will destroy ourselves for selfish reasons, not only do you take away most of human caused suffering, but you bring about an era of humanity that exponentially grows as they understand that experience is merely a tool, and it's consistency, it's this logic and understanding it that brings about progress. And experience will benefit from it. You will feel much better, much more fulfilled, but you won't even care so much. That's why I keep saying on the stream, I don't care about my experience. I don't care about feeling good or not. I don't care about it. I know it's not about that. It's more than about you. Life is more than about your experience. And if you truly understand that on a fundamental level, you connect meaning, purpose to what you truly exist for. And it sets you free because you guys are so trapped in this feedback loop. This knowledge is one step, but you have to emotionally implement it. And how do you do that? By making the essence that brings about all your behavior, all your actions. You got to go to the essence and activate it by experiencing it. Go to the essence of why you do what you do, and you will get to comfort. But even if you go deeper, it's not even about comfort. It's about this existential balance you want. And if you realize, but wait a minute, the reason why I can't achieve this balance is because I think it's all about my experience. You strip away the purpose and meaning from experience itself and label it to the bigger picture, which brings about euphoria. And understanding that it's probabilistic from nature also allows you to take away the binary struggle. Your identity vanishes. Logic becomes your core value. You start thinking in probabilities. You become a different person. Your bad habits cease to exist. It's insane.
Subscribe to youtube.com/AtheneWins. Watch the live stream at twitch.tv/AtheneLive and follow The Real Athene on Snapchat.